Good evening, Mr. Bond fans. I can't believe that these words are actually going to come out of my mouth right now, but depending on where you are in the world, you might just be a few days away from being able to see a new Bond film on the big screen. This has been such a long road. Like, I've done the occasional vlog talking about production milestones and whatnot, and looking back on some of them now, it's crazy to think it was that long ago. So with the film being just on the horizon, I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit about my own final predictions and speculations, expectations about what we're going to get in the 25th Bond film. Little caveat before we go in, I am basing these speculations, predictions on stuff that I have seen in the officially released marketing material. I have not looked at, the title tracks for the Hans Zimmer music score, which might give little clues as to the plot. I've not looked at any leaks about the plot or the filming schedule or anything like that. I like to be involved in the hype for a new Bond film, but I'm very much like, I consume what the official line is and nothing more than that. So first of all, I think it's going to be interesting to talk about, well, I think the two biggest elements of this film, which are going to run all the way through it, are, of course, what the villain's plot is, and also what Bond's emotional journey is. What's his character story? What's his growth as a human gonna look like in this film? So I'm going to start talking about the plot, because I really don't know in detail what this is going to be. My assumption is that it's going to be some kind of biological warfare plot. Purely basing this on images we've seen in trailers, quotes from Safin about he wants to eradicate people, he just wants to do it a little cleaner. I think that that's going to be a big part of his scheme, and ultimately Bond is going to have to thwart that. I also think there's going to be some element of de-aging, or postponing the aging process. Safin has these marks on his face, and we've seen in the trailers that there are there are scenes presumably set in the past which are going to pick up from a line of dialogue that Madeline had in Spectre. Anyway, in those scenes you can see that it's Rami Malek behind the mask, and I'm guessing that that little girl is, what, 10, 11 years old, and obviously Madeline Swan 30, something like that. 20 years have passed, and if they're going to still be using Rami Malek for it, I think, and he looks the same, I think there's going to be some kind of, he's trying to prevent the aging process or something like that. And I think that if he is developing some kind of biological weapon, a chemical or something like that, that is probably going to come from his, we've seen images of his little garden, which I've mentioned in other videos. I'm kind of getting vibes of Shatterhand in You Only Live Twice, in Fleming's You Only Live Twice. He has this poison garden, and I'm wondering if he's found some kind of incredibly poisonous plant, if we're going to go back to like Moonraker kind of stuff, and he's harnessing something about it, and he's going to release this thing around the world. And now moving on to my next point about Bond's emotional story, his character journey, I think there's going to be some overlap here in the role that Madeline Swan is going to play. We've seen in some of the trailers, obviously it's going to be a big element earlier on in the film that she has some kind of secret that she hasn't told Bond, and whatever it is, it's going to have Bond, say sayonara and bugger off to Jamaica.
We all have our secrets. We just didn't get to yours yet.
As to what that secret is, I don't know. We've seen some stuff of like, hands and like almost touching each other and that kind of stuff. I'm wondering if maybe, part of her DNA is a part of this biological weapon, or maybe she's part of a cure for it, or did she help develop it? I mean, I don't know, but I think there's going to be some kind of overlap there. So obviously that is going to be linked to Bond's character story, and the fact that we see him retired from active service, and he's presumably brought back into the fold to work for MI6 in some kind of freelance basis. I think what's really interesting about going into this one regarding Bond is that I don't think I've ever been built up for a Bond film with the genuine question of, will Bond survive this adventure? Obviously, we've seen 007 in peril in every installment in the series, and I think even though you might be into the suspense and the action of a sequence, obviously in the back of your mind you know that, well, they're not going to kill him off. With this very much being billed as Craig's final outing as 007, I'm really curious to know how they're going to end that, and I think if they were ever going to kill Bond in a Bond film, this would be the one, surely. The question is, how do you do that and make it satisfying? Do people want to go and see a Bond film to see James Bond die at the end? There are obviously films that have killed off the lead sort of franchise star that have been really good and worked really well. And I guess it would be a clear indication that they're going to do a hard reboot for whoever the next guy is after Craig. But it's a tough sell, right? Like, you go into a Bond film, you want to see James Bond, and unless they really build up some kind of... I assume it would be some kind of self-sacrifice, and I'm not saying that it wouldn't work in theory. I'm just, as a trope, the hero sacrificing himself to save the day, I find a bit overdone at this point. And I think there would be the obvious comparisons to the Marvel films and other sort of big franchises that have done similar things. What I wonder if they're gonna... What I think they're gonna do with him is, I think they're gonna go for some kind of melancholy, a bit bittersweet kind of ending. I don't think this is going to be all happy daisies in a sex raft with, Madeline at the end, but I think they might go for something a bit similar to, again, Ian Fleming's You Only Live Twice, which does end with Bond in a rather ambiguous place. I feel like that would be a more interesting way to go about it, but as I say, I can't be against the concept, because if it's done well and it's properly handled and built up and all that and satisfying, brilliant, it'll be all those things. I'm just curious as to how they're gonna do it, if they do it. So regarding Rami Malek's Safin character, I'm gonna draw a line in the sand now and say that I don't think he's gonna be revealed to be Dr. No at this point. I know that it's been talked about it so much in this on this channel, and I still stand by my opinion that they've taken aspects of Dr. No from Ian Fleming's story that have not yet been adapted into a film, and they're gonna use those little elements and pepper them in throughout his characterization. I don't think there's gonna be a moment where there's a I'm actually Dr. No kind of moment. I'm gonna, say that I don't think that's coming. I feel like they've learned their lesson from Blofeld, and I think that they would not want to do that again. In terms of Blofeld's reappearance, I'm actually very interested in terms of how characters are gonna relate to Bond. I'm not that interested in seeing Bond and Safin go toe-to-toe. I am interested in Bond going toe-to-toe with Blofeld, Madeline, and Nomi, Lashana Lynch's character. With Blofeld, we know that he's in kind of this Hannibal Lecter kind of role, and they're going to have to go and talk to him to figure out some information. But again, with this being Craig's last Bond film, are they going to leave Blofeld alive? I'm not so sure they will. If they do want to kind of put a nice little bow on the top of this, surely they would have to kill Blofeld? Would they just leave him incarcerated? If it is going to be, a completely hard reboot for whoever comes in after Craig, does leaving him alive give you anything beneficial? I'm not so sure. So I think if you're going to bring Blofeld back, surely there's going to be some finality to this. Now, whether or not Bond himself is responsible for killing him, I don't know. We know he's in prison. I'm wondering if Spectre are gonna orchestrate some kind of breakout for him, and that gives Bond an excuse to go and kill him, or whether he's gonna be killed by Safin, because then that's gonna really make Safin seem like a real badass if he's coming in and killing the villain from the previous film. Either way, I do feel like there has to be some wrap up there. I can't imagine being satisfied if he literally gets wheeled in for some dialogue, gets wheeled out, and then that's it, he's out of the film. Regarding Madeline Swan, and again, I can't believe that a couple of the characters I'm most excited about seeing in this film are characters that I was so disappointed with in Spectre, but here we are. I've already really liked what I've seen in the trailers of this character. I feel like they display greater chemistry, her and Daniel Craig display greater chemistry here than they did in the entirety of Spectre. With her being so central to the plot, it's going to be crucial that we feel something for her, and I've noticed that in the official podcast that they were releasing up, and they've referred to her as being very mysterious. We don't know much about her in Spectre, and I don't think that was intentional when they were writing Spectre. I don't think they were deliberately thinking we're going to develop this one in a later film, but that's the way it is, and I'm looking forward actually to knowing more about that. As I say, I'm pretty sure that her flashback sequence is either going to start the film or come into play at some point. It's something that people often talk about is, can this film sort of improve other Bond films? I'm not a big fan of Spectre, and if all of the stuff in Spectre can be treated as setup for a real roller coaster ride this time in No Time to Die, then yeah, I think it could well end up making Spectre feel more satisfying. Then we come to Lashana Lynch's Nomi character, who is another element that is obviously going to be going through the film, along with the plot and Bond's character story, and her toe-to-toe, tete-a-tete with Bond, I think is going to be really interesting, and something of a highlight, actually. I look forward to, obviously, she's a 00 agent, she's James Bond's replacement in MI6, and I think that that's just an interesting place to put Bond, an interesting new character for him to have some conflict with, and eventually, I'm assuming, some camaraderie. I'll be interested if, again, and this is going to play into whether or not they're going to kill off Bond, depending on how they end with her. Like, is this going to be another, Halle Berry, Michelle Yeoh kind of thing, where they're setting up this real kick-ass action staff to potentially go off into other films? Maybe, if the reception towards the character is really strong, I can imagine them doing that. But I do wonder if there is going to be, Bond tells her to no, go, I will stay here and do the suicide thing that's going to save the day or not. I can't imagine they're going to kill her off in this, nor can I imagine that they're going to do a bait and switch and she's actually revealed to be a double agent. I think she's going to arrive in the film. I think her and Bond are going to have some cattiness together. I have a feeling that they're even going to be on perhaps opposing sides of a similar mission here with this David Densick scientist character who we know is a part of the plot. I wonder if they're going to go against each other initially, and then eventually they have to work together and it's a begrudging kind of thing, and then eventually they both come to realize that the other one is actually really kick-ass or something like that. Jeffrey Wright's Felix Leiter is a character that I'm very curious to see how he is developed. Now, obviously, we haven't seen that much of him in the promotional materials. We know that he meets with Bond at a bar. I'm curious to know if he's going to make out of this film alive, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, he comes back, and he's the character, according to some of the initial sort of, released log lines, that he's going to be instrumental in getting Bond back into the field, and I'm just wondering if that's, again, it's similar to Christoph Waltz's Blofeld. I'm interested to know how the character is going to be doing more than just having this one scene that affects Bond. Are they going to be killed off? I don't know if we could handle the emotional weight of Jeffrey Wright's Felix Leiter being killed off in this. But the fact that he's been in so little of the promotional material, I don't get much of a sense of him recurring throughout the film, and if he is going to be kind of out of proceedings, I wonder if they are gonna do some kind of tragic thing with his character. Also, there's Ana de Armas's Paloma, who I have a feeling is going to be in the film very little. She's been in a lot of the promotional material, but we haven't seen her in any other costumes or anything like that. I think she's going to be a bit of a Monica Bellucci, potentially. She's in one or two scenes. People really like her, and people are going to complain that there wasn't enough of her in the final film. Then when it comes to the MI6 regulars, M, Tanner, Q, Moneypenny, they've been in quite a bit of the promotional material. I think that they are going to be, have more active roles in the film. I don't think we're quite going to get what they had in Spectre, but I think that they are going to be on comms with Bond, giving him information about his mission, what he's up to. And I'm pretty excited that we're seeing inside Q's home. That's going to be really interesting. They talked a bit about it on the official podcast about the attention to detail that they put into his home life and the decorations, or, his flat and stuff. In terms of new characters, David Densick is the scientist, part of Bond's mission. Again, I think that character is going to have some ties to Safin's whole biological thing. Maybe he was part of the development of whatever weapon this is, and he's had a change of heart, and now he's gonna give his information to the CIA, and that's kind of why Felix calls him Bond. There's this Dali Ben Salah character, Primo, who we know is going to be in that car chase sequence with the DB5 in Italy, and I'm really... In one of the trailers we see he's lost an eye. I'm really curious to see how that plays into things. Again, if there's some kind of genetic manipulation, something going on with this. And then we have Billy Magnuson as Logan Ash, who I've quite liked, if there is a character actually who could potentially be some kind of covert traitor or something, my money is on him. I like the description. He sounds like a funny character. He's kind of this plucky, like, squeaky clean. I think he's a partner to Felix or something like that, isn't he? He's definitely working with Felix, and I think that contrast with the more world-weary Bond and Felix is going to lead to some funny moments. I think the Hans Zimmer score is going to be kick-ass. I think we're going to be saying it's one of the best Bond scores ever. I think the thing is going to look beautiful based on all of the trailers. I think the action's going to be kick-ass. I think it's going to have some nice moments of levity and humor. Maybe it's the hype talking, but I feel like I'm being really geared up for a really rollicking, fun adventure film with something quite meaningful and emotional central to its premise, and that's really exciting. That's a really good place to be going into a Bond film, I think. Maybe it's just the hype talking, but I feel like we're really being kind of lubed up for a really kick-ass action adventure extravaganza with still some characterful, emotional heart to it, which is a pretty brilliant place to be pitching your Bond film. How I feel the public perception of this thing is gonna be, I think people are gonna be really enthusiastic about it. I think critically as well as public, I think that this is gonna be another one a bit like Skyfall, where it ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people, and there's a lot of general enthusiasm about it, and it will be, I'm gonna put it out there and think it's gonna be better remembered in the public eye than Spectre and Quantum of Solace. Where it might fall down with a more general audience is if it is completely crucial that you have seen all of the other Craig films, then I feel like it, because, you know, Spectre is not a film that I hear people going back to all that much, like Casino Royale and Skyfall, and I do wonder if for a more general audience that aren't like Bond geeks like a lot of us are if you're watching this, I'm wondering how it's going to play for those people. It might just work as its own thing. You might not even need to see or remember Spectre. You might just need to know that Bond's in love with this woman now, and that's enough to make this film kind of contained in its own way. I wouldn't be surprised if I come out of this and I have it in my top 10 already. I don't like to rank new Bond films because it takes time, I think, and multiple viewings for it to really settle into the filmography along with the rest of them, but everything that I've seen for this one, I don't think I've ever been more hyped for a Bond film. And that's Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, I was super jazzed for. This kind of goes beyond that. And this whole extra weight that we've had to finally get here is... I don't know what that's done to hype. It's been the weirdest hype ride ever, because it's you constantly being cranked up and then cranked down and then cranked up and cranked down, and it's this thing, like, until recently, wondering, is this film even gonna come out? And now we're at a point where something really, really bad would have to happen for it to be cancelled, for the premiere to be cancelled. And fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But it's weird to finally be here. And I'm sure that we're going to be talking about this film for months. I have a feeling that this is going to be a real discussion-heavy one. I feel like people are going to have disagreements about stuff, or different points of view, rather, not disagreements. But obviously, the Bond fans are a good bunch, I think. I think people in this fandom are really civil and nice and respectful, and I'm just really excited to get talking about this film now. I'm excited to see it, and I'm almost just as excited to come out of screenings and talk with friends, go on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and just absorb what people think about this. I'm really looking forward to it. And if you'll allow me to get sentimental for a moment, I do just want to say thanks to everyone who's watched these videos, commented on one, liked one, subscribed to this channel, all of those things, because this channel has really kept me going, personally, throughout this entire sort of dreadful pandemic that the world has been enduring. And obviously, whether or not a Bond film gets released is a minuscule speck of importance in the grander scheme of the public health of the world, quite frankly. But in this time of isolation and, you know, getting used to new ways of living, quite frankly, Bond for me has been such a source of escapism, and I've loved to just crack on making a video for this channel, to make that video live and then see comments and be able to like chat to people in comments and stuff. It's really quite a lovely experience. It's the escapism that Bond provides, I think, and that escapism that the films provide, and the books and the games and music, all of these things, that does translate as well into fan discussion, I think. There is nothing kind of nicer than just having a chat with a few people about a Bond film and exchanging ideas and thoughts, and, you know, my debates with David that have been on this channel and on his have been a real source of fun for me. I've been taking part in the MI6 HQ, the James Bond and Friends podcast, which has been a delight to talk with people of all different kinds of generations and tastes and whatnot about Bond films. And, you know, I feel like my fandom has been enriched, I guess, in this wait for this new film. And thanks for sticking with it all this time. We're here. Finally, we're here. Certainly here in the UK and in a lot of other places, and then in the next few weeks in the US, Australia a few weeks later, as well as other world territories, and it's been we'll be talking about this for a very long time, this period of waiting. I just hope that for you, as well as myself, the eventual film, when you do get to see it, I just hope that it's worth it, that you enjoy, that you can switch off your phone, put it in your pocket, and just sit in a darkened room and experience 2 and a bit hours of pure fun escapism, because that's what Bond really is at the end of the day. So, with all that being said, do let me know your own comments in the your own thoughts about what to expect about No Time to Die in the comment section below. Please like this video if you've liked it. Please subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date on future video uploads, including a review of No Time to Die, which I can't believe that's coming, but yeah, it's been terrific, and thank you everyone who's engaged, who's said really nice supportive things, just like hit the like button and all that kind of stuff. It's so appreciated, and speaking personally, it's just really helped me through this whole wait, this whole time, and I mean, it doesn't end here, which is the nicest thing about it, really. Right, so long for now, Bond fans, and enjoy No Time to Die.